When one thinks about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, we think of politics and wars and land and leaders. But there is one very important aspect that is often missing: the people. And when we do hear about specifically the Palestinians in the media, we are not shown images like this. All of these people come from Palestinian descent. My goal today is to humanize the Palestinians. The history on both sides of the story are readily available on many sources for whoever's interested, but I want to separate the conflicts and acts of violence from who the Palestinian people really are. But if I am being honest, I did find it difficult to completely separate the politics from the people because the politics and laws really do control the everyday lives of these people. My name is Lilia Brooker, and although I am half-Palestinian, I would like to assert that today I'm speaking here as an American. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. I do not speak Arabic, and my perspective and knowledge of the Middle East is still developing. However, I hope that I can share with you a glimpse into what I see and introduce you to a variety of different faces, stories, and experiences that help broaden the way we view these 11 million people. So last summer, I went to summer camp with a girl named Aya, as you can see from our awkward mirror selfie. And we were in New York for the day together. We went shopping and saw a Broadway musical and had lunch. And Aya was from Tel Aviv, Israel. So we asked Aya how she liked living in Tel Aviv, and she said, "I love it. There's so much freedom, and we live right next to the beach, and it's so safe. I can go out with my friends." And Aya's story was very different from what I knew to be true, happening right next door. In many regions of Palestine, Israel instates curfews that can last days, weeks, and even months. Later in my day with Aya, it came up that I was half-Palestinian, and she couldn't believe me. She couldn't wrap her head around the fact that someone like me, my mother, or Gigi Hadid could be even somewhat Palestinian. She said that her school takes her to see Palestine and said it was terrible and poor and violent. Now, meeting Aya was the first time I realized how narrow our view of the Palestinians are. It's not that she didn't know about the Palestinians. It's not that she wasn't aware of who they are. It's that she had only been exposed to a certain portrayal of Palestinians that left out a lot. So I began to think, how can I enable myself to begin a dialogue when I come across such instances? So I did some research to uncover the varying truths of the Palestinian experience. A boy named Suhaib was 14 years old and lived in Silwan, East Jerusalem. He was in the 9th grade and enjoyed studying history. One day, in the middle of the night, he was awoken by Israeli officers, arrested, and told he would be back home within a few hours. He was taken to a detention center, beaten and abused. Even though Suhaib did not know how to speak, read, or write in Hebrew, he was forced to sign a document in Hebrew stating that he had not been physically abused. His father was not called until late the next morning. Suhaib's interrogation period lasted for 10 days, where guards allegedly beat him with a chair and threatened him with a knife. He was then moved to a prison cell where he recounts guards preventing him from sleeping by banging on the doors, yelling, and aiming laser pointers at his eyes. He remained in prison for 30 days. After his imprisonment, he was sentenced to house arrest, meaning that he could not attend school for the rest of the year. I'm sad to say that Suhaib's story is not an isolated occurrence. According to the Defense for Children International Palestine, whose mission statement is to promote and protect the human rights of Palestinian children, the majority of Palestinian children who are detained are charged with throwing stones, and 3 out of 4 experience physical violence during arrest, transfer, or interrogation. In 2014 alone, 1,945 children were detained, including 92 of those children being 12 years old or younger. Now I would like to tell the story of a man who was really able to make a difference for many kids like Suhaib. So Fadi Ghandour is one of my mother's childhood friends. He became very successful in his career, but wanted to do something to help Palestinian refugees. To briefly define who a Palestinian refugee is that it's a person who lost both home and means of livelihood as a result of the 1948 conflict. So Mr. Ghandour started a nonprofit called Ruwad that aims to encourage education, child development, youth organizing, and community building. If a student successfully graduates from high school, Mr. Ghandour funds the student with a scholarship to attend a local university. Ruwad now has many locations in Lebanon, Egypt, Palestine, and Jordan. In the summer of 2015, I decided I wanted to do something to help, but also to better understand yet a different side of the Palestinian experience. So I volunteered at the Ruwad located in the Muhammad Amin camp in Jordan. And before I went, I was expecting a refugee camp to look something like this. Not quite. The refugee camp has a population of about 54,000 people. So I worked in two of Ruwad's many programs, Beit Silsal and the Children's Library. So Silsal translates to clay in Arabic, and the program hosts severely mentally and physically disabled members of the community and empowers them through art. So a local artist comes to teach the children painting, and I helped out with teaching basic sculpture, painting, and drawing. Here are some of the students showcasing some of the flower drawings that we did together. The student is especially talented in art, and I really admired a lot of his other artwork. So in the children's library, I think the kids just loved the companionship and attention. They would fight for who gets to sit next to me in the circle or hold my hand, just longing for that affection that they so often lacked at home. In the library, they would learn reading, writing, and play games. One thing that I think is really, really special about Ruwad is that graduates of the program come back to teach the children. So I saw how a young man, now in university, came and taught theater to the kids, and their eyes would just light up when they saw him, and they hung on to every word that he said. It's really, really unique and special how Ruwad not only benefits the individual, but empowers the entire community. After my experience at Ruwad, I did some reflecting. And I think what disturbed me most was the continuing generations of Palestinian refugees still living in refugee camps. I asked myself, why has it been like this for so long? Will there ever be a way to fix this? But so far, my questions have not been answered. Now, I would like to tell the story that I think really illustrates the resilience among hardships that Palestinians face. So two women, named Masid and Ravan, live in the Gaza Strip, and they recently graduated from an engineering university in the area, and they came across a problem. Construction materials are extremely difficult to access in Gaza due to the Israeli blockade, so they engineered a way to make bricks out of ash from coal and wood, rather than the traditional sand and stone bricks. Their bricks are flame-proof, lighter in weight than traditional bricks, and also cheaper. Their invention even received approval from laboratories in Japan. Last August, the bricks were used in the construction of a building and are now in high demand. This story is a great example of how someone can take the rubble around them, quite literally in this case, and turn it into something that can rebuild what they have lost. Masid and Ravan were not only able to help their community, but have set an example for what future innovators can accomplish. Now I would like to tell the story of my own family. My great-grandfather was a man who spoke 5 languages fluently, including Russian and French. My great-grandmother was a homemaker, as my mother puts it, but her love of good manners and preserving the Palestinian tradition was what drove her everyday life. My grandfather, pictured here, attended law school in England, and my great-uncle went to university in America. My mother's aunts all played piano in their Jerusalem home. This is my grandma in the middle. And my grandparents wanted to make a better life for themselves and their daughters, which they couldn't do anymore due to the occupation in Jerusalem. So they had to leave, and some of the places they lived included Kuwait and North Africa. My mother remembers that their daily lives were consumed with listening to the BBC radio for any glimmer of hope that they could one day return home to Jerusalem. But the years passed, and this never happened. So eventually, my mother came to America for university. During her beginnings at college here, she worked part-time waitressing at Cafe Algiers in Cambridge, Massachusetts. When she was serving people, they would detect an accent and often ask her where she was from. She would challenge them to guess. And all of their guesses were said with such excitement and awe. France, Austria, Germany, Argentina, and on, until the moment my mother said, "I'm actually Palestinian." And their shoulders would hunch, they would squint at her in confusion, and lose all interest of continuing any conversation. Up until now, due to her Western demeanor, my mother is still faced with the questions, "But what do you mean you're Palestinian? You have light skin and blue eyes. What do you mean you're from Jerusalem?" So she now feels that she is in an emotional diaspora, that nowhere ever is truly home. Nowadays, she feels she has to add another element to her Palestinianism to have someone's ear or respect. She has to draw upon some old Turkish ancestor or her life in Europe to feel respected and human. And being Muslim, well, that is a whole nother story. Now, by telling you these stories, I'm not trying to make all Palestinians the victims, nor am I trying to say that everything's fine and it's all right, because it's not. All I'm trying to do is broaden the perspective we have of Palestinians. In the media, on the rare occasion that we are faced with the image of a Palestinian, it is either of a violent, angry one or of a victimized, helpless one. But what we're missing is the third side. Palestinians living normal lives all over the world. This third side is what I saw growing up. I saw people like my friends and my family, and I was immersed in the culture. I would like to conclude with one last story about how learning is not static, but rather dynamic. Just last month, I was speaking to one of my friends over FaceTime, and I'd been sharing some of the research I'd been doing for this talk. And he had been raised and exposed to a very different perspective regarding the Palestinian-Israeli conflict than I had. So we began sharing experiences and the experiences of others relating to the conflict. We shared articles and YouTube videos. And by the end of our call, which lasted roughly 5 hours, we slowly began to understand each other, regardless if we agreed or not. We as humans are too often surrounded by our similarities and disengage or get defensive when our differences arise. But from Aya, I learned about a different perspective than my own. From Suhaib, I learned about a reoccurring problem. From Fadi Khandour, I learned that it's possible to make a difference on a large scale. From volunteering at Ruwad, I learned how to make a difference on even a small scale. From Masid's and Ravan's story, I learned that resilience in the face of adversity is the first step to solving any problem. From my own family's story, I learned about how diverse the Palestinian experience is. And from FaceTiming with my friends, I learned that we all have the power to enlighten someone or be enlightened yourself. From my humble experience living only a mere 16 years on this planet, I, among others, believe that the first step to rekindling humanity is understanding, with which compassion and empathy will follow. It may sound vague and simplistic, but through finding compassion for others, we truly can make a difference. But come on, we've all heard this make a difference talk, but what has always stumped me was, well, how? What I've learned is that it doesn't always require traveling across the world. It can begin by reading an article or watching a video on the little machines in our pockets. It can begin by chatting to the person next to you. It must begin by stepping out of our comfort zones and into somebody else's shoes. In this day and age, with news events and tragedies being thrown at us every day, our daily lives are becoming reduced to only the facts of the situation. But what we need to do in addition to knowing the facts is to hear the stories, see the images, and feel the emotions to truly comprehend the impact or importance of any world event. Before we can construct solutions to any of our problems in this world, we need to see eye to eye. We need to recognize that we all have the power to share, to listen, to engage, and to question. It is in our hands, and more importantly, with our responsibility, that we use these powers to change the way we think. Thank you.